Hello, welcome back to the Glassgirl Network. Wasn't planning this show at all. Obviously, good to see some news come out early into the summer as well. And it's good news. I can see some smiley faces here on screen. Thank you, Kieran, for joining me. How are you, mate?
All good, thank you. Yeah, all good. Yeah, buzzing about the news. Yeah, it's a really positive term for the club, and yeah, excited to talk more about it.
Yeah, well, let's just describe yesterday. Obviously, my phone just started bombarding when I was doing commentary at the Kelso and Stoke Cup final yesterday. It was that was a great game, by the way. I think what I would probably say is, first of all, the photo came out, didn't it? The blurred photo. And I was thinking, this could be my pick here. And I'll tell you who that was shortly. And it wasn't Meg Bailey. So that was one thing. And then I was messaging Andy Fisher on the way home at night at 11 o'clock on the voice notes with Radio Kev in the car saying, I'll tell you what, that looks a bit like Bailo. And he just laughed and he didn't say a thing. And yeah, I think me and Kev just spent the whole evening at the end and even this morning debating who it could be. I thought it might have been Cheryl Edwards, if I'm honest. I put a few comments out to my friends and everything back in February saying Cheryl Edwards would be like my number one pick. I think she was like further ahead in her journey. She's done rugby academy. She's done obviously Birmingham Academy. She's a former Glass girl, a player, female. I get it. So that was my pick. So when I tweeted and then I saw that photo, I was thinking maybe I'm right here. And I even messaged Cheryl as soon as that April the 3rd, was it, when it came out that the vacancy was there. I messaged her. So I actually thought it might have been Cheryl Edwards. However, I was wrong. What were your thoughts when you saw the blurry photo, Kieran?
Yeah, I didn't really take too much notice of it initially because, like, I don't know, I prefer to deal in like confirmed deals. It's all signed and sealed, and all of these teasing and rumors and stuff. It isn't really for me. So yeah, I didn't really take much notice of it at first, and then obviously it started popping up more and more on my feed. I think you shared it, a few other people around the club shared it, and yeah, I had a longer look, and yeah, started to look at the picture. Firstly, realised it looked like a female coach, which is obviously a massive thing as a whole. And then yeah, so I started to kind of piece together little clues here and there I could. And like you, I thought it was Cheryl as well. But yeah, 9 o'clock this morning, the news comes out. It's definitely not Cheryl Edwards. It's Meg Bailey.
So on that then, so when you actually found out it was Meg Bailey, did you smile? Did it make you smile?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think anyone associated with Starbridge knows Meg and is a big fan of what Meg stands for and what she does and how she's, conducted herself throughout her time, at Starbridge before this. Obviously, a former Glassgirl player, mostly with our development and reserve sides, but had a few first team appearances. So she will be a familiar name to quite a few. And then, a successful manager within her own right at the under 16s level. Obviously, they've won one of their cups already. They have potential to go on and win a treble. So, yeah, all eyes on that for the remainder of the season. But yeah, it's definitely a positive. It's always good to have someone come through and that means well for the club and wants the club to do well. Yeah, I'm buzzing with the appointment as a whole, really.
I think it's a statement. I think what the chairman have done is come out and basically said, "Look, this is the kind of manager that we want," and that's actually like one of the quotes. I think it was mentioned on the website. It says she's got the right characteristics to guide us in our next chapter. What do you think those characteristics are, Kieran? Because I thoroughly agree with that, by the way. But what do you think those characteristics are?
Yeah, I think it's tough to say, but I think Meg knowing the club so well, potentially, I don't want to say going back to the old days, but some of the traits that your Mike Harris's and Andy Fishers might have possessed themselves, potentially ones that weren't as shown last season. Maybe bringing them back really. Bringing a good vibe to Starbridge, I think is the main thing about it. Making Starbridge a positive, happy place to play your football. Which let's be real, in tier 3 last season, we didn't have a great time. We didn't have a fun time of it. And that element was definitely something that I noticed. And I'm sure pretty much everyone in the club could have noticed that, it seemed off. So to bring Meg in, someone that, like I say, that knows what the crack is at Stourbridge and how things should be run. Yeah, I'm buzzing with it.
I thought you was going to do a Donald Trump there, making Stourbridge great again or something, but
No,
it's
definitely
definitely
not.
good.
Definitely not that mad.
It's definitely a good feel-good factor, and I agree with you. I think it will bring positivity. It already has. Just flip it on one other side. I mean, she's not the most experienced. Obviously, she's come from the under-16s. Obviously, first team coach at Kiddie this season as well, doing well there. But this is like a kind of different kind of manager to me. This is like screaming, like you say, it's a positive vibe. It's one for the future who she can like build a team and hopefully sustain tier four. And maybe we can get into that later. But it's not a case of let's sign Meg Bailey to get us promoted to tier three. I think that kind of has gone out of my head now. I think, and I don't mean this to be a slight on Meg Bailey, but I don't consider her to be getting us promoted. That's not the expectation. Whatever, you'd have had an Andy Mulligan or give Andy Fisher a call, or you'd have got a more experienced manager in. So to me, this is all about bringing in that positivity. Maybe linking the standard team together, getting the junior section involved again, and really just going for a good feel-good factor. And I want to mention that at the end as well. So to me, it's more about that really, like you just said, creating a positive atmosphere more than actually pushing us on in regards to league position. Is that kind of the way you were looking at it, Kieran?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think expectations from what Meg can deliver are going to be massively high because the fact is it's her first senior management job,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a massive thing. Obviously, she's done really well in her own right in her under-16s, but first team women's football is a completely different ball game. Obviously, she's got loads of experience. Obviously, studying under Andy Fisher throughout the last year or so. And as we mentioned, lots of experience with the Stourbridge junior sides. But it is a risk. It is a risk. Whether it's one that's going to pay off, who knows? The only time will tell that, I guess. But yeah, Meg has my full backing. Obviously, she knows a lot of people. She'll have a close circle around her. And potentially there's a few players that have left Stourbridge that will see this appointment and think, oh, I'm a big fan of Meg and what she stands for. Potentially give it one more go. So yeah, I think we can go forward into the summer. I'm glad that it's been done early as well. That we're
Mm-hmm.
not sort of in the last few weeks before the season, so worrying about who's coming where and everything. We've got a lot of time to build a squad to drive in a direction that Meg and the board and everyone associated with the girls section wants us to go in. So yeah, it's a positive time, I think.
I think we knew that Ada's going back in March, so it's been a couple of months now, hasn't it? So I think anybody, as Kieran
There
falls
we
over
go.
with
Sorry,
excitement,
it's flying all over
I
the
think
place.
everyone, I think anybody who was going to apply would have applied by now. Like there's been a good couple of months, so it's not like that they've rushed into it. They've still had a good couple of months, and then, like you say, they've gone early, and now it really gives Meg enough time to make those calls and to get some coaches in as well and get some support there. Absolutely, because and if you look at it, I mean, if this was like a Sutton, say for example, a Sutton or a Bolmere under 16s manager, former player coming across, I wouldn't have been that excited at all. But because it's Bailo, and we know what he can bring, not just on the field, but like as a character, I think that's what really made us smile. And everyone I've spoken to, there's about 20 odd people in the Discord chat that we've got, and no one said anything negative there. I'm in another Discord chat with like National League fan base and all that kind of stuff. I've not heard anything negative about this whatsoever. So yeah, it's all based on her love for the club and what she can bring off the field. So for me, I'm really excited about that, and I'm sure we'll get into that more soon. I've got the word Kieran Kiddie Harriers written down because she's a first team coach at Kiddie, and we know what it's like moving backwards and forwards, this, that, and the other. She's obviously got Zara Gibbs as her right hand man, right hand woman in the under 16s. Is there a possibility that we can see some old faces come back in the summer, go back from Kiddie, back to Stourbridge, but perhaps?
Potentially. Obviously, there's a really exciting project building at Kiddie, and I'm sure a lot of them will want to stick around and be part of the long term vision of that. But yeah, I think you'll get a few that think, as I say, they know Meg, they know what she's about, and a lot of them have enjoyed a number of successful years and happy years at Starbridge. So I think you might see a few come back, but I think it's very much up in the air at the moment.
Absolutely, especially where Kiddie are in the league as well. Let's see where they finish and what league they finish in, of course. Yeah, of course, absolutely, yeah. Attendance levels then. So I think Meg's already got her own fan base, and I think it's quite a decent sized one for someone who's, like you say, predominantly in the reserve team, like when she was a player or development team. I think she has got a strong fan base. That's why maybe one of the reasons why she's been employed in this role as well. We're playing local teams now as well. Can you see maybe the attendance levels creeping up? I think I can.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, especially if we start doing a bit better. I think a lot of the reasons why people didn't want to potentially come down is because you don't want to see your Starbridge side get beaten by Nottingham Forest however many nil. It's not the most entertaining watch. It's not a fun watch for someone who supports Starbridge. But yeah, obviously if we drop a tier, if we end up in whichever tier we might end up in, hopefully you'd imagine we win a few more games, and if you get a few more familiar faces from the past back, obviously Balo being one of them, any players that might have been part of that as well, and that to sort of build not exactly like we had it. I don't think, because I don't think people will want it that way. Not exactly like we had it 2 or 3 years ago, but I think there will be elements that are replicated again, and elements that we're familiar with. So yeah, I think that naturally will build attendances, and I know Andy Fisher is a big fan of the saying, you bring them in once and you treat them well, you treat them right, and they'll keep on coming back. So hopefully Meg, understands that, and understands how to build a crowd, how to build an audience, and can in turn create a very, very positive atmosphere at Starbridge.
Well, if you have a look, I totally agree. If you have a look at like some of her teams in the past and the crowd for like a girls section, it's really good. And I think that there will be that link somewhere between the first team, the Starbridge Standard. Obviously, she's close to April as well, and Ryan Magson. So there is every opportunity where they can kind of support each other and come to each other's games, and that's massive, isn't it? Though it really does add to the add to obviously the attendance levels, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the actual games that we'll be playing as well. So not just necessarily this is kind of away from Meg now, but Bolbia, Sutton Coldfield, Kiddie or Lie, those kind of games for me is massively exciting. And Meg is probably in her dream job already at this young stage of a journey. It's phenomenal, isn't it? What do you think? Do you reckon this was ever part of the plan for Meg to get into this kind of level so early?
I guess so. I probably wouldn't imagine she'd imagine it would come so soon. Yeah, I think, as we say, this is her first proper senior management role. So it's a risk, definitely. I think she'll understand the risk that she's taken by doing that. But I think if anyone, the club is going to rise to a risk and properly, put a decent effort in to challenge any doubters that may exist. I think it's definitely Balo. She definitely seems that way inclined to want to go and do, some magical things this season. So yeah, I definitely back her. Obviously, definitely back her and all the girls that she wants to bring in. And yeah, hopefully, I think as you mentioned, there's some good teams in our that could potentially be in our league if we end up in tier 4 next year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, local teams, big numbers for the local teams. I'm expecting in attendances. So the likes of Kiddie, Lie, whoever it might be, Sutton Coldfield. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting season.
Worcester as well. That's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, yeah.
I think it's easy to think of like you look at like people's circles, don't you? Like when you think of the networks, and obviously the bigger network you've got, the better in regards to like connections and getting players in, getting coaches in. But we've also got to remember that Balo is she's going through the UEFA course, so she'll have connections away from actual match days or former players that she's played with. So I think that's an advantage if she can strike a couple of relationships there. How she needs to be on that phone or on social media. Hidden, not actually publicly, but like keep on building them relationships with other managers that maybe wouldn't see Barlow as a threat, and really keep on pushing those relationships. And we saw that last year where obviously Aid had like that Leafield connection and Birmingham Academy connection, and we've seen Fisher and Mike have it in the past as well. Getting those connections is vital, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think at stages, especially last season, it was almost you were able to pinpoint where Aid's next signing was going to come from. It would either be an ex-Leafield player or a former Blues Academy girl, which, nothing wrong with that at all. Obviously, it's great to have these connections and people that you can rely on. But I think, having someone new come in and that has that wide breadth of connections and can, strike up a conversation with anyone anywhere and introduce them to, a new playing, a place to play. Yeah, it's really exciting, definitely.
I think with a new manager coming in as well, no matter who it is, it's going to change the perception a little bit as well, hopefully for the better. So I think it's fair to say that we might have struggled a little bit towards the end of last season, getting players in, getting additional coaches in, any kind of support, for whatever reason that might have been. When you get a new manager, you can call it a new era, can't you? So even if things could potentially be exactly the same, just a new manager, potentially that would be the case. However, I think people's eyes would open a little bit more now there's a new manager. You start thinking, okay, well, what's it going to be like? And that's obviously a bonus, I think, for us, because it's like we kind of ended the season on a bit of a negative, like obviously getting relegated. A few players left before the registration cut off, and it was a bit of a downheart, it was a bit downhearted. Whereas now, a new face coming in, whether or not she's better or worse at what she actually does, it's something new, isn't it? And then potentially more players and coaches can like look at this and think, okay, well, can we trust Bailo? Or can we, in a positive way, of course, because it's something new. So I think just being refreshed will also help the perception of the club. Do you think that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, John, you'll probably know as well as most people, word in women's football spreads quickly. So yeah, I think there are rumours about Starbridge. There always have been, and there always will be. There's definitely things that are said that are true, and there's definitely things that are said that are untrue. And people build their perception of a club from what they hear. So yeah, I imagine there's probably players that before last season we probably could have attracted. However, with the summer that we had, with things that were said, with things that were done, may have pointed them in other directions. But I think to start on a clean slate almost, with a new direction, with a new manager, it's definitely a good thing. You sort of get rid of any rumors and stuff like that, and just focus on what you're doing, what you're building, and you tell it to the right people as well, and hopefully it's almost like a snowball effect. Then you get a few good players through the door. People start to think something's happening here. Could I be part of that? Let's have a speak to Bailo and see what's going on here. And then you start to build from there. You start to build, hopefully, a team that can really do well in whatever league we're in.
That first appointment that's publicised, so it might not necessarily be the first one, but the first one that you put out on social media is key. I've seen other teams do it. If it's someone really special, it will encourage, like you say, it'll snowball. And I thought really can't wait to see what actually happens, because I think it's going to bring happiness one way or the other. So I want to read out a quote. It's from Bailo. It's on the website. My focus now is on building a strong, positive culture within the team that reflects passion, commitment, and community spirit that Stourbridge stands for. So just that last little bit there, community spirit that Stourbridge stand for. I mean, that's just to me, that's obviously just pricked my ears up. That was the best part of the whole lot, out the whole article. Just the fact that she's recognised that. She doesn't need to say anything about the community. She could have spoken about the game, the players, tactics, anything to do with her, but instead she talks about the community spirit. That to me is a massive tick. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. I think anyone that has been around Stourbridge for a number of years, like we have, noticed a difference in last season and potentially even the year before that. Things started to started to stray away from, in my opinion, what made Stourbridge such a special place and a special club as a whole, and started to lean more towards a professional environment. Which, if that's the case that the club wants to go for, I have no problems with that. However, in my opinion, it sort of then goes away from things that I find more important within football, and that's sort of, you know, having a good time, making sure the environment is as positive as possible, and just having fun. That's what it's for, especially at this level when you're not earning a full-time career from it. You want it to be fun, you want it to be enjoyable, you want to look forward to your Sundays playing against, you know, these big teams and in these big stadiums like the City Ground at Nottingham Forest. And yeah, making the most. I think we've said it quite a bit on this channel already, making the most out of what was then Tier 3 experience. So yeah, you know, if Meg can sort of bring that back, obviously, like I've said, I can't imagine, you know, all the factors of what we had 2 or 3 years ago are going to return. Quite frankly, I don't want all of them to return. I want almost like a middle ground. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, you still have that professionalism to an extent. However, it's still a fun, you know, challenging but enjoyable above all environment. And I think that's definitely from what you've just said there and what Meg said. That's definitely what she's got in mind for the club as well, I think.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, because I think 10 months ago about that middle ground. Because I think for the past 10 months I've been saying, I get that we had to change a culture, and I get the chairman's idea behind it, and that was absolutely fine for me. I just think that we went too extreme, so that we went from like maybe there, here we go, there we are. We went from there all the way to like there. But really, if we felt like some sort of middle ground, we'd have been fine. And maybe Balo is the one to find that middle ground. And I think she is, because she gets kind of everything. She's been at the club when we were winning. She's been at a club where we was bringing in money, in regards to like the gates and the bar, and any other kind of revenue that we've got. One of the most common words that was used on this channel, when we used to interview players on here and fans and coaches over not the last 12 months, but before then, was family. And I felt that like we kind of lost that kind of. I never heard that word used once last season about just being about being a family. And I think there's two things that like kind of stick out in the golden era, the successful era. It was winning and being a family. Well, like I said, there's no pressure on me personally to make sure that Baylor wins. I know I messaged Ryan Magson a few days ago. Or was it? I can't remember. I spoke to Magson about it, and I spoke to April about it as well on a Sunday night, saying the Stourbridge Standard game, the cup final that we went to, we lost that game 3-2. I wouldn't mind losing every game 3-2 and having that experience, because it was an enjoyable experience, even though we lost. The players would have want that. They wouldn't want to lose every game 3-2. I appreciate that. However, you get my gist, and it's a bit like what you said about going to a game and enjoying yourself. I think Baylor can find that middle ground. I think we can win games. I don't think we'll be fighting at the top at all, but there's no expectation for me now with this appointment. If we assign Andy Mulligan different, yeah, let's go for it. But for me, let's if we're not going to be winning titles and getting promoted again, let's at least bring that family atmosphere back. And for me, I think she can do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as we say, you know, as you said just then, quite rightly, Meg's been here through all of the periods of Stourbridge, really, the transition. So I think she, alongside people like us, will understand where that middle ground lies and how to find it. And yeah, I think that's definitely something that she'll work towards.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, I think that's it. I'm really grateful to be coming on, Kieran. I've got
No
another
problem.
podcast. I've got another podcast to do shortly, which is also live on a different channel, all for women's football. I do it every Wednesday. If I don't do it, you cover me, Kieran. So I appreciate that, and hopefully we'll continue that again next season. But yeah, I think the smiles on our faces. I think, look, we know what kind of appointment this is, and hopefully it does bring a smile on our faces. It reminds me a bit of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he came back as a Man United manager. Bit of a club legend, puts a smile on our faces again, and hopefully it ends, you know, in a happy, with a happy season.
Hopefully
So,
not turn out like Ollie.
no, maybe on his first season. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Look, thank you very much, Kieran, and yeah, I will see you all again soon.
No problem. See you later.